All right. All right, we're live and welcome back. This is the Edge Podcast with Chip and Christy. And we just wanted to come back. We missed you last week, and that's my fault. I had a little back injury, but things happen. But this week, we wanted to jump back on and talk more about business with you guys, more about networking, and of course, more about the Edge. We empower, develop, grow, and educate business owners and help mold them into business leaders and pillars of their community. Today, we are going to talk about strategic innovations and how every business has to stay ahead of the curve at all times. You can't just sit back on your feet and relax, even though you finally got that comfortable amount of customers or clientele or however you want to look at it. If the minute you start missing those innovations and upgrades in business is the minute that business starts passing you by. Christy, what's been the latest innovation in business, or what was the biggest what's the most crucial thing that's happened to business recently? Now, not even COVID, after COVID, what do you think's been the newest thing now that people are having to stay ahead of?
Readjusting to the world opening back up. I think they had to kind of pivot. That was the word of 2020.
Yeah.
And have to change with the times. Depending on where you're at, you have to really strategically innovate all the time in your business. It's not this once a year rain dance that people do, or this once a decade rain dance. Now I feel like you have to innovate your business weekly, monthly, sometimes hourly, depending on what kind of business that you're in, because the world is just changing like never before.
Constantly. And there's something new almost every day. I swear I hear something new in the news. I almost quit paying attention to it because unless it's affecting my daily business, because it's like you say, you have to keep up with it. It's constantly adapting and pivoting itself. Business is never really just stagnant, staying the same in any niche, any field of work, whatever you do. It's always consistently rotating and doing some kind of changing and upgrading, and the systems change. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, I believe it's when the computers first started even coming to the scene.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing all my dad's friends and everybody, oh, I'm never gonna, I don't need a computer for my business. And nowadays, if you're running a business without a computer, you're almost like a skeleton that's already, 6 feet. It's just a business that's barely scraping or not learning how to adjust with the times. Cause that's
exactly.
It's amazing too. And if you're not the one doing the innovating, somebody else is.
Yeah.
And that's what's bringing in the business too, most of the time.
Yeah, and strategizing on innovation in your business is something that has to be inundated in the organization, for customer service, for the skills that you have, for everything. I bet, the people that had the flip phones thought that, this is the newest thing, right?
Yeah, zip.
Flip phones forever. And then the iPhone comes around, thank you, Steve Jobs and Apple, and it totally changed the market. One we talked about recently was Blockbuster and how they kind of ignored Netflix, didn't think that streaming was a big thing. I just saw an article today about how the theater industry is having to innovate because in 2020 COVID hit and everything was closed down, and now they're reopening, and now they're having movies that aren't being streamed, like Fast and Furious 9, I believe. I think it's Fast 9.
There's tons of movies and new shows on these new streaming networks that are having their own actors and actresses. Yeah, it's a new game. It's a completely new ballgame.
And they're struggling because everybody is used to being at home now and streaming it. So Furious 9 only was put out in theaters. It wasn't streamed anywhere. And still those companies are down 50% compared to where they were in 2019. So theaters need to innovate quickly, or they're going to be something that has been wiped off the face of the earth also, because us as humans are used to just clicking a button now and it being in our home. You know, we all upgraded our home theater systems last year because we couldn't go to the movies. So it's like an experience in your home. So that's an industry that needs to strategically innovate to get butts back in the seat, or they're going to be a dinosaur in business. Our kids will be like, I remember when I was a kid going to a movie theater, like with a rotary phone for us, right? Or a telephone booth. Wiped off the face of the earth.
Payphone, goodness gracious.
Yeah, exactly. The ability to reinvent the basis of competition with existing industries and invent entirely new industries, just like the streaming people have, right? They've created this air that goes to your home, right? And you can watch a movie. So they've had to reinvent the basics, and so that we'll take those and eat them up, because if not, it's going to be wiped off the face of the earth. Another one that needs to innovate very quickly is vending machines. Those things that was wiped out with COVID, right? And I still go into the Walmart, and they're all like taped off. Like, what are those people doing? That's how they made their income, and now it's gone. Right? So they have to innovate. There's something out there. I heard of beauticians during COVID that they were closed, right? They couldn't do anything. So I heard of beauticians that innovated, and they put the hair color in a box, and then they sent you a video and instructions how to color your hair at home, right? Entirely new industries were created because of COVID, but entire industries were wiped off the face of the earth because they didn't innovate. They didn't strategically innovate.
And there's tons of different scenarios with different fields of work that are very similar to that. I mean, there's tons of people, especially if you think about it, everything shifted to the home. Everybody's either trying to learn how to run a business out of their home, or their boss is saying, okay, look, you did better while you were at home. Now, me personally, I'm not the type of person that's going to work well at home. I needed an office, which is why I got one. But I mean, some people are just great, and they do produce well at home, and the office is almost not even needed. Another industry right now is almost commercial real estate in general, office space. People are shifting to the house. So what can these people with office space do to make, or I guess, do you start finding new markets, or what do you do? Find people like me that just need small spaces. But that's another industry that's going to need to figure something out, because a lot of people aren't going back to the offices.
Exactly. That's what I did. I realized I could do everything I do from my phone. So I seriously dropped that $2,000+ a month for that commercial office space in Hewitt, Texas, and moved everything to home. And as you see on my videos, I move around quite a bit because I can do it from my mom's house. I can do it from my cousin's house. I can do it from my house. I could do it from the yard if I need to. I innovated, and that cash is going in my pocket now instead of making somebody else rich. So commercial, another one that's going to have to innovate is realty. Realtors are going to have to innovate real quick because there's a housing crisis.
If you're not plugged in certain areas already, and you're wanting to get into real estate, because there's so many realtors out there nowadays.
Yeah.
I mean, Christy, that is something that I've noticed everywhere. It doesn't matter where you go. There's so many people in that niche now, in that field of work now, to where it's so flooded. Even if there was a bunch of houses, it would still be in trouble, I think, in my opinion. But I mean, obviously it's still, what is it still at, like 50%, like half of the realtors are getting a house every month or something, like they're not filling up. I forget how they put it or how their wording is, but the real estate industry has definitely been, the ones that aren't plugged in have been having issues. and not just plugged in, that aren't the hustlers, that aren't the 1%ers, that are out there getting it every day.
Yeah, I can't remember the statistics, but it's a really like 7%, 7 to 10% of realtors make over $40,000 a year. It's not that many. And that's when inventory was they had inventory, but now the last time I heard the inventory is so light in the Waco, Texas area that people are scrambling to get houses to sell. There's plenty of lookers, but there's not enough on the market. And I'm hearing every week of people that have rental properties now that are tired of doing rental properties, and they're selling them to make bank because there's such high demand for it. But it was supposed to on 6/30 be a housing crisis, but Biden signed into law that they kept furloughing those the evictions, and they furloughed the mortgage payments for another period of time. So that housing crisis was kind of pushed off. They keep putting a band-aid on the industry.
Yeah.
Artery that's gonna like explode one day. And that housing crisis is looming, and I don't know what all these realtors are going to do. Hopefully they save their money, but in Waco, Texas, which is a couple 100,000 people in surrounding area, there is over 1,000 realtors. So, and the majority of those, I think it's about 75 to 80% are part-timers. So they do it, they're a school teacher and then they do realtor on the side. So there really is going to be a feeding frenzy when this housing market kind of bubble busts and it becomes buyer's market instead of a seller's market. But they're going to have to innovate. They're going to have to, those people that do this full time for a living are going to have to innovate. So somebody has done it before. Somebody made it through 2008. Somebody made it through 2001. Figure out what they did to innovate in their business and tweak it to you. So as to one of the keys to strategically innovating is be ahead of the trend, not the pioneer. The pioneer gets arrows in his back. Think of Jeff Bezos. Even people we know, Chip and Joanna Gaines, nobody had really done what they'd done before they'd done it. And they get all these arrows in their back because they're the pioneer.
Yeah, Elon Musk is one of the big one.
Yeah, who's building that amazing
the dude's incredibly smart, but a lot of people don't even like him though,
No, he's got all these arrows in his back, right? But that's because they're the pioneer. If you want to do what they have done, you can see what they've done, and it takes those decades and puts them into days for you, right? If you listen to them, read up on them, study them like we do, and just be ahead of that trend. If you can be ahead of the trend, that's strategically innovating, not reinventing the wheel. You want to learn from the people that have done it before you and model after them. That's what we did with Edge, right?
Yep.
People had done what we wanted to do, and then we tweaked it to what our entrepreneurs are really looking for. We weren't the pioneer
by any means,
so we didn't get arrows in our back, and as we build it, we won't. But we have to be a little bit ahead of the trend to keep going and innovate our business.
Yeah, it's hard. It's a constant battle, no matter what. There's always going to be change. I have no doubt that we will see a lot more change in the near future. Like things are going to constantly, until everything readjusts itself, things are going to just keep kind of stacking on top of each other. And it's like you said, they'll probably keep putting the Band-Aids on the knife wounds. That's because that's just kind of what our country is known for. It's kind of what we do. But
that's probably why we're trillions in debt.
Yeah. While there are people on the streets, making billions of dollars, so yeah, but the money's there, and as long as you stay ahead of the curve, constantly think about your business and what you can do, the best way to get your services, your product to your clientele, and just keep figuring out new ways to get it to them, to get the idea to them, to get the thought to them, to get your name to them. And eventually you're going to keep on, you'll, as long as you're staying on top of it, you'll stay ahead of the curve.
Exactly. Another thing for strategic innovation, another key to the strategic innovation is to ensure that there's an infinite upside. So when you're looking at strategic innovation, you want to look at things that there's an upside for your business. You want to make sure that you're going into something that's viable to your clients and consumers. So if you're thinking, you know what, I'm tired of residential real estate, I'm going to make the move and go to blah blah blah, and maybe it's commercial realty and selling, to movie theaters. This is not the right time.
Yeah.
This is not the right time. So maybe you need to think about how you're going to move in real estate to something that has an infinite upside. If you're going to move from vending machines, think about what's going to have an infinite upside. Are you going to want to sell all your vending machines right now? Not the right time.
No,
Because
not just that.
pennies on the dollar.
Well, not just that though. There's tons of new things going into vending machines right now. There's new types of vending machines out there. If you own vending machines, just start rethinking what you can put in there. Think of a store, think of what they have, and then imagine if you could make a mini part of that store and put it in another store and that pitched. There's tons of things you can do, because I've seen like PPE products,
Oh
vending
yeah.
machines. And I've seen them all over the place. Obviously airports, and that's a place you want to get with. I'm sure they have contracts, but there's tons of places. If you think about it, it's a mini part business. So if you find somebody with products, somebody with something, and get it in front of other people, the whole point of business is to get your product in front of other people. And you have a vending machine which can put people's products in front of other people. So there's different ways to look at it. It doesn't have to be snacks anymore. You just have to figure out how to tweak that machine to let out whatever it is.
Exactly. So my daughter used to work for a pie company, and they innovated right before COVID hit. They decided to start putting their pies, instead of having brick and mortar, which is very expensive. They had a brick and mortar down by Magnolia in Waco, Texas. The rent was $5,000 plus a month. That's a lot of pies that you have to sell, right?
Mhm.
And so they wanted to franchise their business, but it wasn't feasible at that time because brick and mortar was just so expensive, and then COVID hit. What they did was started putting their pies in gas stations. They
Yeah.
don't have to pay for brick and mortar. They don't have to pay for employees anymore. Yeah, they're probably paying out some of their money that they would have been taking in, but it would have been paying those expenses anyways. So they innovated. Now everywhere in Central Texas has these pies that you can purchase, and it's in front of way more eyes. They don't have to advertise. It was very innovative what they did. They did the right thing at the right time, because if they would have done it maybe a year earlier, it wouldn't have been the right time. But since COVID hit, right, it was the perfect time to start sliding that stuff in there. And it was pretty amazing to see their growth and talk to them and see what they're doing. A year later, they're thriving. Whereas if they would have tried to keep all those extra brick and mortar locations open, it probably would have bankrupted them. So it's really cool to see companies innovate to get, change it up, the infinite upside. And then the third key to strategic innovation is to bring in new voices, new questions, new conversations, new perspectives, new passions. And here's one a lot of and entrepreneurs don't like to do, is new experiments, because they're scared of the change that you were talking about.
Yeah.
I hear entrepreneurs all the time go, I'll be happy when I don't have any more problems, I get all my issues figured. Here's one of the things about life. If you're 2 years old or if you're 110 years old, there's always change. You have to figure out and deal with the changes in life. And if something's not working, you have to have new experiments. You have to try new things. There's always going to be problems in life, problems in business, and you have to learn to deal with them and innovate.
Yeah, there's always going to be something in front of you. There's always, and that's the thing. I'll be happy when, right? That's just it. That's, you got to love that. Everybody loves to say that, but the truth is when that happens, there's going to be something else that pops up, another goal you need to achieve, another, uh, another edge you got to jump off of. There's always something that's going to need to move you to the next point in business, to the next point in life. Something will always happen. So even when you achieve everything you think you're done, there's going to be something else, because it's still life. There's still going to something else. The curveball will happen, I promise.
It will. Taking risks, breaking the rules, being on the edge, and a maverick of sorts is more critical today in business than it has been ever before. So you've got to be on the cutting edge, or you're going to get wiped off the face of the earth in business in 2021 and beyond. You have to strategically innovate. I saw so many people that were like, I just don't know what to do. Well, take that stress and, turn it into creating a solution instead of focusing on the problem. I had a conversation with my husband over the weekend where he was just fixated on something, the kids were doing in the problem. And I said, you know what? We need to talk about the solution, not about the problem. Entrepreneurs spend 95% of the time on the solution, not the problem. And that's part of strategic innovation, is you've got to get over that hump, right?
Mhm.
For you to be able to make those changes you need to make. And if the changes don't work, try something different. If the changes don't work, try something different. Get new voices, new questions, new perspectives, new passions, new experiments to strategically innovate your business in 2021.
For sure. 100%. And always look ahead. Don't start stopping and looking in the past and worrying about everything else. Just think about how you can solve the problem that you have in front of you. Solve it, go to the next. Solve it, go to the next. And that in itself, in a nutshell, is being an entrepreneur.
Yeah. It's just these incremental improvements that allow you to maximize your profit. If you were a remodeling person in 2020, nobody was letting you in their houses. So you had to innovate and go in a different direction. When you dominate your industry, you are doing these incremental improvements and asking your questions, right? Your new questions. How can I make this better for my customer? How can I make this better for my clients? And when you have this in your company, it changes the model of your business to the world. And you're a part of that top 1%. So you've got to do and it's not like taking everything you've done and throwing it out in the window. It's a 2% change. When somebody's butt ugly and they go in to the plastic surgeon because their nose is like this, right? They don't say cut the whole nose off. What they do is this 2 millimeter change to make their butt ugly nose become a beautiful nose. And that's what you do in business and in life. It's not throwing everything out the window. It is these small 2 millimeter changes that will change your life, will change your business, and change your customers' lives from what you're doing. It's just incremental 2 millimeter shifts that change your life and your business. It's not throwing
And it's funny. And it's funny when you put it into words like that. I can look back and think, oh yeah, I've had those. I know, I can remember exactly when I learned this lesson, and I ended up shaving off 50 to $100 a month because of it, and I made my profit margin a little bit wider. But you notice those little bits of changes you do, and I can go back. Now that we've talked about it and have put it into words in my mind, I can go back and look at the exact moments when those little shifts happened and when I was able to. And that's the thing, is catching it and actually taking action on it. And that's one of the biggest things you have to, just because you found a solution doesn't mean you've actually implemented it. So, take action on your business for sure. That's one of the biggest things, is constantly be taking action.
Exactly. You can't just listen to this podcast and go, okay, I want to innovate. You have to take the action. action. You have to do something. When I was in franchising and I had lots of franchisees, we would have calls like this, and then none of them would go out and do anything. They wouldn't make any sort of changes. None of them are left on the face of the earth now, except for my business, right? But they wouldn't take that action that was needed. They thought when they bought a franchise that they would have no problems. That's not how it is. It's still a business, and 95% of all businesses don't make it in the first 5 years. They have to innovate and stay in business, and you have to take that action. You can have all the knowledge in the world. Knowledge is not power. Action, like you said, Chip, is what the power is.
Yeah, it's implementing that knowledge. It's not just having the knowledge, it's doing something about it as well.
Exactly. So how are you going to strategically innovate your business, listeners? What are you going to do? What new voices, what new questions, what new perspectives, what new passions, what new experiments are you going to brainstorm on to change your business 2 millimeters at a time?
Yeah, and that's all it takes, is just changing it a little bit at a time. And eventually you'll find your comfortable, pattern, and you'll figure out, oh, this is the actual business that I opened, not what I visioned,
Yep.
2 years prior when I started it. That's happened to me a couple times too, where I'm like, oh man, my business isn't going anywhere where I thought it was going to be going. But it was still moving forward and it was still going. So, I love that. I've talked to a bunch of different business owners that said, man, when I set out to do this, this is not at all what I planned. And these are people that are comfortable, have a great business going, but they just found where they fit in their niche, in their town, and with their people. And they, basically optimized it and took advantage of it, which is what our goal. That's what my goal is with my business. Find where I fit, take my spot, and just be whatever that business is that I built at whatever it becomes,
Yeah. Have you ever seen that cartoon on social media that it goes, what I thought success was from point A to point B, but
Yeah.
really going from point A to point B is like a roller coaster. Like
Yeah.
it's never exactly what we thought it was going to be. Think about, marriage. It wasn't ever what we thought it
No,
was going to be. Having children, is it what we thought it was going to be? No.
nothing is.
Business is just like life. It is a roller coaster ride. So you have to be able to innovate.
For sure. It's the day before high school, and when you completely picture and lay out exactly what you're going to do the next day, and then the next day comes and you hit that stumbling block and nothing goes the way you planned it. That's just that's how business goes. That's how life goes. So be ready to constantly innovate and change with the times, but at the same time, just be ready to solve problems, because that's what you're going to get as an entrepreneur. You're going to get problems to solve, not necessarily problems. Oh, I got too many problems, but like math problems, like issues and situations to solve and get over.
Exactly.
But yeah, man, that's what the question is this week to the listeners is, what's your plan right now to innovate your business to the next level, like to change and find your spot and your niche in your town. So that's the challenge from the Edge for the week, is to find how you're going to start standing out in your niche. What's going to make you be the go-to person in your field of work.
Yes. So brainstorm on that over the next week and join us for the Edge Live on Thursday at 8:30 at La Marvelosa in Waco, Texas.
Yeah, right on the corner, 24th and Waco Drive. Great little spot. Yeah, come by, check us out. The in-person meetings just have that much more of energy. It's actually the energy that we put into it is what we get out of it. And we've had tons of great experience just through these meetings, tons of people that have completely shifted and changed their business for the better, just by showing up, listening to what we had to say, and implementing it into their businesses. Christy, is there anything else that you wanted to go over about strategic innovations?
No, I think that we wrapped it up. You guys really think about how you can strategically innovate your business and make that incremental improvement to change your business through those new voices, new perspectives, new passions, and have an amazing business 2 millimeter shifts at a time.
Yeah, just be ready, be open to change, and be ready to take that action. So guys, we love you. Stay safe. This is the Edge Podcast with Chip and Christy, and we'll see you guys next week.